All right, we're back at it again. It is Thursday, 5 March. This is video number 28. And so I want to continue down this line of documents and then talking about my parents also. First, I'll start off with them and then I'll get to the documents. So I just want to make it really clear. I don't think my parents, matter of fact, I'm 99% certain my parents weren't involved in the Atlanta child murders or any murders or anything harming children or other people or anything like that. Looking back, because my mom's just not that kind of person, she did everything she could to help kids, these foster kids we had. And then when they moved to Dallas, she had a emergency. She used one of the bedrooms as an emergency shelter for abused women and children. And so I don't think she would ever be involved in anything harming children or harming anybody, killing anybody, anything like that. But what I do believe is that my mom was obsessed with money. She was very disappointed, that my dad couldn't provide the lifestyle she wanted. Uh, but they never complained about their lot of having to work all the time. So I always found that was interesting. But she went out of her way to try to ingratiate herself with whatever rich or powerful or celebrity people that she would come across. I mean, I mentioned um Herschel Walker, and there were other people. People I don't remember the names. Okay, I just know they were pretty well off. You know, my mom would always lament about how she married the wrong member of my dad's family because so my granddad, his father, born in the 1800s, had owned a large amount of land in St. Simon's Island. Okay, that was passed down from generation to generation. They owned probably about a third of St. Simon's Island, and so I guess beginning in the 30s or 40s, definitely after World War II, he started selling off that land before he died, and he would use that money to buy companies. And he bought, let's see, there were four sons, and so for one, he bought a concrete mixing company to help build roads because it's the late 40s, early 50s, so they're going to build all the highways. Okay, so he bought that. He bought a bridge company. I don't think it was Rogers Bridge Company, but it may have been. I'm not sure. Or Shepherd Construction Company. And what he did is he bought the concrete company and put one son in charge of that, CEO. He bought the bridge company and put one son in charge of that. And then he bought another like road building construction company and put another son in charge of that. And my dad's father, I think he was the youngest, was a little rebellious. And after World War II, he went off to be a minister, a Methodist minister. And, you know, I guess he got some money because he divided up the money from the sales of the island to them. And so he decided to use that money for charity and to start a church. And, it's a typical um, story that you hear, the preacher's kid is always the worst, which was my dad. And, his brother, my dad's brother, was a deputy sheriff in down in Ware County, and his other brother was a nurse in a nursing home, ironically, head nurse for like 40 years. And I think I told you the story about how They lived down. It was Waycross, okay. They lived down there, and he was a deputy sheriff. My uncle was a deputy sheriff there, and they got a call saying that they think an airplane had crashed off some road in the Okefenokee, which wouldn't be uncommon. You got a lot of flights coming from Jacksonville going to Atlanta that way, and a lot of small planes, so one could crash. So he went back there to check it out, see if he could find anything. And when he pulled up to this road, there was the airplane, still with the blades running, the back doors hatched back down, and there were lots of trucks, and they were unloading that airplane. And it had basically landed in the swamp off one of these little sandy dirt roads there. And, he turned on his lights, started to get out of the car. And as soon as he got out of the car, the whole car just got lit up with automatic gunfire. And, it was coming through the door, he said, like inches away from hitting him. So he crawled underneath the car and crawled to the back. He said I was sitting underneath the gas tank of the car, but there was the engine block, between us. And when the firing stopped, he got to the back there where the trunk was and was ready to head off into the swamp. It's better to face the alligators and snakes than a bunch of probably drug Colombians with machine guns. And that was it. He heard the airplane rev up and run down the road and take off, and all the other cars took off in the opposite direction. And his car was left Swiss cheese and not running. Luckily, his radio was running, and he called it in. And when they counted the shells all over the ground that they could find, they didn't shoot off into the swamp. There were at least 300 rounds that they had fired at him, and he was lucky to be alive. And so he figured that was, God's way of telling him, hey, maybe you should retire. And his son was sick, and so he decided to retire. Unfortunately, he didn't live very long after that. He died of something, I don't know what, some kind of cancer or something like that, about 5 years later. But so that was my family there, and my mom was always aggravated because she had married the son. Why couldn't she have found the son of one of the other three rich ones? They're all rich. They basically own that town and lived in the nice part of town and everything. And they own properties out on St. Simon's, like Jekyll Island and St. Simon and stuff like that. And the family had built like this summer home off Amelia Island, and I would spend many summers down there with my cousins, um, weeks at a time, just wandering up and down the beach on Amelia Island, 13, 14, 15 years old. And I would walk from the mansion all the way up to Fort Clinch, and I'd bring a book and some lunch and some water and sit up over there on the walls of Fort Clinch and watch the submarines come in. That was my life. But um, my mom always lamented that, and she always tried wherever we went. These rich cousins, and they all went to private schools and stuff like that, and went to everybody went to UGA, and she always tried to, you know, get me to emulate people like that, and I don't know, I just didn't have any stomach for rich people. I just, they're all fucking noses up in the air and all this kind of stuff, and not just my my dad's relatives, but my dad was kind of like the black sheep of the family, and he'd always been the black sheep of it, even before my mom met him. So it wasn't anything new, and but we would meet. Matter of fact, I think it was my dad and her that introduced me to Senator Paul Coverdell, and I got to volunteer for him when George Bush came to town and at this fundraising dinner. I think that's how I got the position. volunteer position there. Um, but I just always stayed away from people like that. And she was always trying to, there are, and this is around the world and in the U.S. and especially in Atlanta, there's a power structure. Okay, there's the rich industrialist elite. There's the old money. And there's new money. Okay, and the old money, they're all involved in historic preservation, like the Fox and all this kinds of stuff. And then you got the new money, which are high tech people that are, trying to get more business to Atlanta. And most of those people are white. Now, there's a few blacks. I think that guy from Godfather's Pizza was, I think he was from Atlanta. And then, so you've got those people that have money, and they live in the white suburbs of Buckhead, Roswell, Alpharetta, all those places. And then you've got the black elites, the politicians, the Maynard Jacksons, Andrew Youngs, Kasim Reed, all these guys, okay, that are community activists and they're powerful. And you got state senators and congressmen and stuff like that. There's the white structure and the black structure, and they try to make us, it's us against them, whites against black, blacks against whites, and it's all bullshit. That's how they, if you don't do this, you don't vote for me, then no, those white people are going to get in, and they're going to take everything that we worked hard to get. It's the same way. If you let those blacks in, they're going to, all be on welfare and all. It's fear mongering politics bullshit. Okay, what we found out from the Epstein files, it's all bullshit. It's just a bunch of fucking rich people trying to play us against each other. Okay, fear mongering. Okay, so and then in those groups are the up and coming people, the doctors, the lawyers, the real estate people, professionals with the licenses, you know, the Patricia McLeans, the Ed Garlands. They make more than you and me, but they're not. They don't go out and build a section of the Crawford Lawn Hospital or some shit like that. Okay, that's the difference. If you have money to start an endowment at a college or build a wing of a hospital, you're fucking rich. Okay, and everyone kind of cowers and you know comes with hand in hat to those rich people. Okay, whether you're black politicians, white politicians, or up and coming professionals. And then below them, you've got the hardworking business entrepreneurs, the $100,000 a year guys, the construction guys, the you know um, those the entrepreneurs. Okay, and then you've got people like you and me working for them and working for the other guys, and then you've got the poor. And so it's kind of a pyramid scheme where there's the more you get to the top, the less there are. Okay, and the more you go to the bottom, the more people there are. Okay, and my mom was always trying to climb that period and wasn't, even though she would help children and help the poor and help animals, she wasn't beyond stepping on the heads of people to get, you know, a handout to make her way to the top. She thought that by the process of osmosis somehow that she could get rich that way, and that's just not the way it works. You don't go to the right schools, don't know the right people. You're just not. There's a glass ceiling. You're not going anywhere. So that's where my mom was. What she was willing to do to make it. Okay, and I think in that process there of meeting these people and hanging out with these people, that she saw stuff. She did maybe not participated, but she saw stuff that warped your mind. And my dad too. It warped his mind. Oh my God, this is what we have to do to survive and for our kids to live. You know, and I think they were willing to do and pay those prices, to, just like people do today. So I think that's what we were looking at. Um, I think they did. My mom know Wayne Williams? Maybe. I'd say 20% chance. Yeah, maybe she worked with him at the Omni. Did she know he was involved in the Atlanta child murders? Probably not. Did Ed Garland know Wayne Williams was involved in the Atlanta child murders? Back when they were occurring? Probably not. Okay? It's my contention now that I think Wayne Williams was a gatherer for rich pedophile elites. And like I said, not every rich elite was a pedophile, but some definitely were, just like in the Epstein. And so there were people that were definitely pedophiles that were rich elites. There were people that participated in pedophilia to blackmail others, like Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. And then there were people that were either on the way up or already up that were being blackmailed. So you had three types of people. You had criminal pedophiles that were looking to go after any kid. You had people that were willing to participate in pedophilia to blackmail others, okay, and get others to do things for them. And then there were people that were being blackmailed because they were on the city council, they were in Congress, they were in power structures, judges, policemen, things like that. And where Wayne Williams fits, okay, is below that structure. The the gatherer of a gatherer. Okay. So there'd be someone below them that was, okay, I want a white kid, I want a black kid, I want a Hispanic kid. And there'd be different, you know, different guys that handled those departments. And then below them, they would have people like Wayne Williams, because Wayne Williams wasn't getting rich doing this, but he always seemed to have money to do this. Where did he get all the money? Why didn't he convert some of that money into a new car, an apartment to live in, all these things? So that's, if you understand the structure, that's how I believe it was working. It's the same structure no matter where you go in the world. It's the same thing in the Epstein world, but on a massive scale. You could take this same structure to Chicago, to New York, to Dallas, to Los Angeles, and there's going to be a group of people, regional franchise of pedophiles and child pornographers there. And they're going to have their underlings, of which Wayne Williams was one. Now, what I think would happen in these other places around the country, they're molesting children. Very rarely are they killing them, but they're never, ever leaving their bodies out. They're disposing of them with some kind of acid or grinding them up, burial at sea, something to dispose of the bodies where they're not found. The difference in the Atlanta child murders is that Wayne Williams got off on the reaction of leaving the bodies out. He found power in that where he had no power. See, like my mom, she wanted power and was thinking she could get power and money by osmosis, hanging around rich people. Wayne, even though he was a servant of the rich people, he was showing them that he had power. This is why I think he ended up with these high priced lawyers, because he took photos, he took names, he has dates, video of some politician or some rich hanger, person that had a thing for little boys. He got it all. Why is it that even though Wayne had a camera, lots of cameras, and his dad had cameras, and a very fine video camera, that they never found any film or videotapes. Because when you look at the FBI inventory, not one fucking VHS tape, not one Betamax tape, not one roll of 35 millimeter film is mentioned. Not one. And what that tells you is that between the time Wayne Williams got stopped on that bridge and the time that they searched his house, he cleansed that place. And I doubt he was keeping hardly any of it there anyway. He was probably keeping it over at 881 Memorial or one of these other houses owned by Jimmy Jen. Okay? That's what I think. And it's just a matter of having one tape. You take a video, you take that tape, you go over to 881 Memorial, you give it to Jimmy Jen and say, okay, here. Just like, remember how Wayne would take his tapes and he would go to WSB and he'd write a little ticket and he'd leave it there and they'd pay him and then he would go. He did the same thing, I believe, with Jimmy Jen at 881 Memorial or the Sound Pit. He would take that tape, give it to Jimmy Jen. You're going to like this one, Jimmy. The boss is going to like this. Okay, I get my standard 500, right? I think I should get a bonus, you know? And that's what I think was going on. I really do. And whether he killed them for snuff films or he killed them to keep them quiet, I'll leave that to your judgment. I think it started off execution style, keep them quiet. They were threatening to talk, or he heard they're going to talk, or they were talking about it and he told them not to talk, like that. All right, so that's all I got to say about that. So, but it definitely, whatever happened, whatever my parents saw or were involved with, or who they were involved with, you see, when you have no power, or finally you realize you have no power, that's when you become suicidal. That's when you start drinking. Okay? Because you realize you're not in control. You can go out and work your fucking 80 hours a week and pay your bills on time and have some money in the bank. And then you realize one day you have absolutely no control over your life or power, that all can be taken away at the whim of whoever. That's when people start going crazy, losing their minds, trying to. I remember my mom sitting there with the fucking scissors on her wrist, July 1981, threatening to kill herself. And I'm 15, freaking out, going, what the fuck is going on? Calling my dad, calling my neighbors. And they, you know, they don't talk to kids about this stuff. They come in and they got her and they took her away. She was gone for 3 months. And my dad's drinking the whole time. We ride in the van to go visit her, the Joco delivery van to go visit her. And she was in a hospital right up there off of Paces Ferry and I-75, Howell Mill Road, right up there. And matter of fact, when I would go see my girlfriend, like 4 years later, and we would pass by there, I'd always point that it's like a little hospital, mental hospital up on the hill there. I'd always point out that building. I said, yeah, that's where my mom was for about 3 months. She got out, you know, parents back then, I guess like now, they don't talk about what happened. They don't say, yeah, this is what happened. I want to tell you. Just go home and act like nothing happened and then go to work and, you know, game on again. Anyway, so let's get back into these. So, again, here's another one that Ed Garland came up with called Madison Maple Development. Okay, so you see here, there's Madison right there. Okay, and Madison is like southeast off I-20, I believe. from Atlanta. And so you can see how they came up with the name Madison Maple Development. I guess that beats ABC Development, right? It's a money laundering scheme. They're not doing it. Maybe they found some rental properties there that they can take drug money or they can take pornography money and put into these buildings, okay, manage them for a year or two, and then sell them off and launder their money. That's all they're doing. Let's see where this is at. I guarantee you this is like downtown. This is some kind of lawyer, Royal Everett. Let's see who that is. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. All right, so here it is. So it says Everett Royal, often referred to his by his full name, Clement Everett Royal. So that's him right there. Okay. Is primarily associated with a prominent local developer and philanthropist who passed away in April 2003. Okay. Now, let's say something about that. So, a lot of these people, they'll talk about how great they were because they, you know, they bought or donated enough money to build a children's hospital wing. Okay. And they're such wonderful humanitarian individuals, right? But let's not bullshit each other, okay? So what that is the rich people have figured a way to manipulate the tax code. You start a foundation and you put all your assets in a foundation and then you start making donations. So your other businesses basically pay no taxes, okay? Because this foundation with these donations, if that's greater than the amount of taxes that you would pay, you don't pay taxes. Okay? So it's a write off. And they've created the code that way that you and I, we couldn't do that. We're lucky if we get a couple of thousand each for each kid we have, right? But anyway, that's what they do. Yeah, development of downtown Madison. Yeah, see, he's got the James Madison Inn, Madison Markets, Variety Works. See, they're always on the board of these fucking places, okay? Madison Downtown Development Authority. That basically decides who's going to be allowed to have a business or develop any real estate downtown. And you see, they're always involved. Always. These guys, these rich elite philanthropists, are always involved with the Boys and Girls Club. And what does that tell you? Okay? They're a bunch of fucking pedophiles. Where do you think pedophiles are going to hang out? They're not going to be hanging out, okay, at the, I don't know, adult lesbian club. They're going to be hanging out at the Boys and Girls Club because that's where their thing is, okay? You don't go looking for candy in a fish market, okay? And the first foundation of childhood literacy. Wow. Business, and it makes them seem like they're so caring for children, right? Business ventures before focusing on Madison, he founded the Metropolitan Title and partnered with baseball legend Hank Aaron to create several auto dealerships in the Atlanta area. Wow, didn't know that one. Recognition, he received the Georgia Cities Foundation Renaissance Award in 2010 for its contributions to urban renewal in Madison. Reality TV, the Royal event, also belongs to cast members from the TV reality show The Family Chantal, a spinoff of the 90 Day Finance. He is the brother of the show's star Chantal Everett and appeared with his wife Anjanette. While he has family ties in Georgia, he is distinct from Madison-based developer. Madison County versus City. Some public register searches may occasionally conflict results for the city of Madison, Morgan County, and Madison County, Georgia, which is a separate county. So there you go, folks. So that's who you're looking at there. And again, to me, it's got fucking pedophile, drug dealing, money laundering written all over it. This is how they legally get away with it. You know why the you know why the government and the police are so hardcore about going after like small time drug dealers? Because they don't want any fucking competition. Okay. It also, think about the whole prison industry in Georgia, the whole judicial and law enforcement chain gang industry is all based on busting. It's got a whole mentality about it through fear, white fear of the black drug dealer. Okay, gangster rappers. It's all a mentality, us versus them. Well, you better vote for this guy for sheriff because that guy is going to let people out. You better vote for this district attorney because, you know, he's hardcore at giving stiff sentences. Okay, and then the same people are also involved in the drug trade. Okay, or protecting those in the drug trade because you know don't steal, don't do drugs, don't sell drugs because the government doesn't want any fucking competition. Okay, that's what basically it is, the way it is. And so we've got Tom Palmer. He's just another attorney. Okay, he's probably in 3151 Maple Drive. That's Ed Garland's um, office right there. Let's take a look who Tom Palmer is. Let's see. If you got anything on Tom Palmer? I love this AI though. But again, it's a good place to start, but always verify whatever you get because see, they can mix up Madison County and Madison City there. Okay, let's see what we come up with. Okay, so it says in Atlanta, Tom Palmer most likely refers to one or several professionals currently in the city's business directory. Holy shit! Given your previous interest in Barton Protective Services, there may be a specific connection to the security or facility management industries. Wow. Let's see. Turner Broadcasting and the Atlanta Housing Authority. Real estate specialist Tom Palmer. Commercial real estate Tom Palmer. If you're looking for Tom associated with Barton Protective Service, which secured the Omni, see, there you go, in the 1970s, there was a Charles Tom Barton. Okay, that's not the same. He founded the company in 1974. All right, let's look at this. That's what I like about the AI. It scours the internet like these mega crawlers they used to have back in the 90s, and then it puts it all in some kind of readable form. So here we go. So we've got business litigation. Let's see. address here. Three five 60 Lenox Road. So just right down the street. That's up in Buckhead there. Well, let's look at our time. 36. Yeah, Lenox Road. All right. So yeah, so he's close to Phillips Plaza. Okay. So right here is Maple, and he's right there. There's Tower Place. There's Lenox. So he's literally right around the corner. That must be a new office though, because that road is what only existed 30 years, I guess. All right. Regulatory and Government Affairs. All right. So it's always lawyers, okay? And see, that's the thing. You can have a lawyer as an agent, okay? He's your guy. He handles whatever problems you have, but you're the money. So the drug dealers, the pornographers, the criminals, they got the money. They give him a fee. He puts it all in his name, power of attorney, okay? Because they know he's not going to screw them. Because they probably, they got pictures of his wife, pictures of his kids. They know he's not going to fuck him or screw him over, okay? All right. Let's go to the next one. So we've got the Omni International Atlanta Merchants Association, okay? It was formed January 13, 1976. Now, we're going to see where they incorporated the Omni in 1974, and then my mom started right there, okay? That's probably the next one, I believe. We've got Howard Cohen and Reggie Mitchell, Gene Lorette. I have no idea who these people are, so let's see. These are probably people that are like from New York. I think the Omni International was financed out of some company out of New York. Let's see, Howard Cohen. Atlanta. There's probably going to be a few. A federal judge. It's definitely not going to be a federal judge, right? It could be, but I very much doubt it. That's him right there. And then a doctor. Major, there he is right there. CEO of Atlantic Pacific Companies, a major real estate firm. You ever see real estate investments? Yeah, that's him right there. And I found this new way of doing things here also really interesting. If you ask it connections between two people, it will pull whatever connections that it can find. Sometimes I can't find anything. You see, like that one right there. All right. So, okay. All right. So here we go. You see, it says Omni International Hotels. Okay. September 26, 1974. All right. So, also, I find it interesting that that lawyer right there, Robert Hunter, also was a registered agent for Maurice Gayton with the Limelight Dance Club up there. So, but you see that right there? That right there is approximately when my mom, I believe, around September, stopped seeing Mr. Thieves, and she went hat in hand looking for another job, security job. Pinkerton said, "No, well, we don't have any positions up at Colony Square, but you might want to check out the Omni. They've got a security agency over there that's hiring people. Because, see, they're starting breaking the ground for the Omni. And we've all seen these construction sites. They put up the boards and the fences, and they have a security guard roving around so people don't break in and steal all their construction equipment. And it took them, what, a year and a half to get everything finished. So there it is right there. Let's let's take a look at this one. Who was Robert P. Hunter, Atlanta? He's probably some real estate or hotel developer. See, they had a lot. This is why Atlanta grew so much. They had a lot of people come down from like New York, Boston, Chicago, and they started developing Atlanta. I mean, like literally half my friends were not from Atlanta. I had two that were from Boston, one was from Chicago. Uh, this other guy was from Puerto Rico. Another guy was from Chicago. You know, okay, labor relations and legal. Labor relations, you said 81 to 85. Yeah, founder of Hunter Hotel Advisors. You know, no one's really mentioned that if these kids are hanging out, okay, at the Omni International Hotel, you got convention people coming in, okay, from all over the country. Why wouldn't Wayne, why couldn't Wayne have been a pimp for these out of state guests, bringing them, the kids are already downstairs, bringing them upstairs to the Omni International Hotel? You know, it's just a matter of really simple. Um, they call Wayne, or he calls, you know, his nightly job. He calls in, "Hey, boss, I'm at the Omni. You got any work for me?" "Yeah. I want you to bring a kid up to see Mr. Weinstein up in at the Omni International Suite 2100." You're gonna get paid $200. Oh, great, or $100, $50, whatever. Okay, great. And then he'd go over to the game room, or he already had a kid he brought with him, and he would take him up there. And they knew, hey, you're going to get $20. Okay, just be nice, do whatever they say. Maybe he stayed and took pictures, took video. Maybe just, okay, I'll be back in an hour. You know, nobody's ever mentioned that. Okay, I mean, is it not real obvious that Nathaniel Cater was selling his body? Why wouldn't he just walk across the street from the Falcon Hotel over to the Omni International? Not much of a jump, folks. Yeah, Hunter Hotel Advisors. Let's take a look at this place. It's not that much of a stretch. I don't believe. Wayne could have been a pimp. He could have been blackmailing people. Maybe he found a way. When you think you're going to blackmail people, you would do a little better job at securing more money. Maybe somebody sold Wayne on the idea. Hey, look, it's not the greatest thing, but it's a way for you to make money until you make it big with your Gemini group. Just bring some kids. You know, they're going to make some money too. You're going to make some money. They make 20, you make 30, whatever. And then, it'll tide you over until you can make it big with the Gemini group, if that was really a real thing. I'm just kicking around ideas, folks. Okay, let's see what we got. So I look at these in a very special way. First, I go down this column and I look for the name Robert Hunter. Okay, I very much doubt that this real estate mogul would have a superette, which is like a laundry, right? Coin laundry, all the way down in Brunswick. So I'm going to not even bother with that one. But let's see. Robert Hunter, Oxford Pierpoint Holding Corporation. See, there's another one. This is what they do, folks. They start these generalized holding corporations and real estate trust, and they launder money for people. Okay? You want to come in as a silent partner? I need some mob money. 3343. Yeah, see, that's going to be the limelight right there. Or Tower Place. I know these addresses, God, too fucking well. This is what I do, folks, all damn day. Not all damn day, but I work, I do my other stuff, and then when I have my free time, this is my fun time. Okay? Oh, no, 3343. Oh, that's that building that sits over the I 400. Again, it's just there's Tower Place, there's Maple Street, there's Lennox. All right, let's see. Yeah, Oxford Pierpoint Holdings. Let's see who's in that. There's Robert Hunter. It's still active. He's still going. They're still laundering money. This is how you legally get away with it. You don't take $10 million in drug money and go buy a fucking fancy mansion and a bunch of cars for your buddies and go to Vegas and blow money on hookers and blow. Because that just, you know, that screams to the DEA to take a look at you. Okay, this way, even if they look at you all damn day, they can't prove anything. You know, it's like in training day, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Okay, all right. So we got that one. And here's another one. Robert J. Hunter. This is his law office here. Okay. He's up at Perimeter Mall. All right. Okay. Now and then I go back and I look at the addresses. Any addresses in Atlanta, I'm taking a look at. There's a P.O. box. Robert Hunter, MD. Nope, not an MD. Peachtree Financial. Let's take a look at that one. Robert Hunter right there. May not be the same guy. David White Entertainment. See, when you run, what do they call those? The escort service. You call it entertainment. Okay, Stonebridge, it's Stone, Robert, in Snellville. Probably not the same guy. But you never know. If I actually had to go and look up everybody I found, I'd spend an entire lifetime because they know how to hide their shit. Okay? CSRA billing. This is in Augusta. All right, so then I take a look at these here. Okay? So we've got this Oxford, and then we've got that, and it could be all legit. Okay, it could be all legit. Who knows? All right. This one, I don't know. The Omni Promotions Management Company, One CNN Center, 1980. That's right before or right when CNN started. But I don't see any names that I recognize. All right. Oh, and just a heads up, if you see this CT Corporation, Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia, 1201, that's Colony Square, I believe, or near Colony Square. But they're just a registered agent. Omni Music Group, I don't think this has anything to do with anything here because it's 2008. And then we've got uh, nothing. Sometimes the Secretary of State, because I'm out of the country, will block me, and I have to use a VPN. It just depends. Like this one, I think it's going to be blocked too. Oh no, that's my Michael Davis document. Okay, So I got 5 minutes. What am I going to do in 5 minutes? All right, hold on 1 second. All right, so I got 5 minutes. I'll start on this one. So this one's very interesting. If you go to justia.com and look up Michael Davis, you're going to come up with this abstract. Okay, U.S. Court of Appeals, Fifth Circuit, 1982, January 11th, 1982. So at the same time, in Fulton County Court, when Wayne Williams was on trial for his life for the Atlanta child murders, right down the road, okay, in the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, just, I believe it's in Atlanta, I'm not sure. Ed Garland and Lawrence Katz, okay, and Bobby Lee Cook are all in court defending Thieves and Evans and Alton Hood, okay, at the exact same time. So, like, for the last year, well, the previous year, back in 81, the government went to the courts and said, this motherfucker is still conducting business from inside the fucking prison. He's still running his porn empire and music empire from inside his prison and making money and not reporting it. And they proved their case. And then the government got a judgment and they seized his assets. The sound pit where Jimmy Jen was working, where Wayne Williams would bring the kids. And they took that. And then Garland and Lawrence Katz, who's an entertainment attorney, a famous entertainment attorney that started a music school in Atlanta for children. Lawrence Katz was also an entertainment attorney for Michael Jackson. There's Bobby Lee Cook. Bobby Lee Cook would, the next year, 1983, would file Wayne Williams' appeal to the appeals court of Georgia to have his trial thrown out. Okay? There's Hood. That's the former cop, Alton Bart Hood, from North Carolina, South Carolina, who was a cousin of Evans, who used his police resources to track down Roger Underhill so Thieves and him could murder them. Jeanette Evans was another girlfriend. I believe she's the one that either helped him break out of prison or the one that was assigned, like, as a secretary to be the name for Michael Thieves' corporations, GRC and Global and all that other shit, so he could run his business from prison. Okay? And we're going to run out of time, but I will get into this in the next one. But basically, they're acting all innocent, saying, "Hey, we didn't know anything. The government's made this all shit up, you know, and they don't have a case." And the judge throw it out. And then what the appeals court does is they look at everything and they say, "No, the government has a case. He still is running his business, and he still did kill those people, and you're going to stay in prison. Bye-bye." But we'll read over some of this next time. I'm out of time. The clock is always ticking, folks. All right, take care. All right, bye-bye.